Hello, and thank you for joining me. My name is Geraldine. I'm an educator with Nordic Naturals, and today we're going to talk about why every child needs omega-3s. Beginning the moment we know we are expecting a child, we dream about their future. Toward the end of pregnancy, we work to make sure our home is safe for our crawling infant. Once this precious package arrives, we do everything in our power to equip them for safety, health, and success. Helmets, seatbelts, vegetables, and the best education possible. We all want to do everything we can to give our children the best possible start and the strongest future. But how many of us are thinking about our child's cellular health, their brain, their eyes, and their nervous system? We may worry about something going wrong, but do we know how to support these delicate yet crucial systems throughout a child's life? That very question is the heart of why we are talking about how every child needs omega-3s. In the first few years of life, more than 1 million new neuronal connections form every second. The early years are the most active period for establishing these connections, but new connections can form throughout life. The connections that form early provide either a strong or a weak foundation for the connections that form later. Undernutrition during pregnancy results in a change in fetal programming that could permanently shape the developing child's structure, function, and metabolism in ways that can lead to imbalances that manifest decades later in adulthood. It's early in the game when we can create a strong and stable foundation. During childhood, there are critical periods of brain development. These critical periods are time frames during development when nutritional deficiencies like omega-3, lack of stimulus, or excessive stress can permanently impact the long-term function of the brain, eyes, and nervous system, impacting social skills and behavior. Without proper support, these critical periods can result in developmental, social, and emotional deficiencies that continue well into adulthood. Most of us don't think of children as having mental health issues, but 80% of chronic mental health disorders start in childhood, and they are the most common health issues faced by school-age children in the U.S. Mood imbalances can impact children and adolescents and can interfere with their education, social connections, and behavior. Researchers have indicated that the prevalence of learning and behavioral difficulties have been increasing in the last 40 years. At this point, about 15% of U.S. children have some form of delay, including learning and intellectual disabilities, neurological and behavioral disorders, and developmental delays. In fact, 4% of children have both a behavioral disorder and a learning disability. This amounts to almost 3 million children. When children struggle with mental health and learning disorders, they're at risk for poor outcomes in school and in life. This is not the foundation we want for our children. Our brain, eyes, and nervous system are central to the kind of development we're talking about here. In order to support the development, we need to support the systems involved. The brain is about 60% fat, and 1/3 of that is a single omega-3 fatty acid, DHA. The eyes are an even greater concentration of DHA. Low intake of omega-3s is like building a house without all of the materials. DHA is literally a building block of the brain, eyes, and nervous system, making it essential for proper development and function throughout life. Fish oil is a rich source of EPA and DHA, providing nutritional support for this development. Unfortunately, only about 1% of US children are using fish oil on a regular basis. US adults aren't doing much better. The average American red blood cell has almost 37% omega-6 and barely over 2% omega-3. Ideally, these numbers would be about equal. This common deficiency was stated by Harvard University to be the 8th leading cause of preventable death in the US. Can we expect our children are going to fare any better? My child doesn't eat better than I do. Beginning before birth and throughout our lives, each of us needs these essential omega-3 fatty acids, but few of us ever come close to consuming enough. From prenatal babies to adolescents, children rely heavily on EPA and DHA for visual, brain, and immune function, as well as support for normal emotions and cognitive function. Fetal development and infancy are known to be key windows during which sufficient DHA levels are necessary for optimal mental, emotional, and visual development and performance later in life. While not as intense as childhood, brain development continues into adulthood. In fact, the final stage of frontal lobe maturation happens well into the 20s. This part of our brain governs forethought. That's why we see teens and young adults not always making the best decisions. The part of their brain that thinks ahead to the consequences of their actions is not fully developed yet. This is why it's so important to support this process. The human brain growth spurt occurs from approximately the beginning of the 3rd trimester to 18 months after birth. By the time a child is 12 months old, their brain has doubled in size. By 3 years of age, their brain is 80% of their adult-sized brain. The amount of DHA in the brain increases dramatically during this time. This is the most active period of brain cell division. That's why it's believed that an adequate supply of DHA during this period is essential. The emotional and physical health, social skills, cognitive and language abilities that emerge in the early years are all important for success in school, the workplace, and in the larger community throughout their adult life. Unfortunately, most children are not getting anywhere near enough DHA through diet alone. So to help support parents in providing this essential nutrient, Nordic Naturals introduces our new Children's DHA Extra. It provides 2 times the DHA of our original Children's DHA and is sourced from anchovies and sardines. With 225 milligrams of EPA and 535 milligrams of DHA per serving, this formula is ideal for children ages 1 to 6 who need extra support for cognitive function, learning, and social development. It comes in a delicious sugar-free berry punch flavor and can easily be given to a child with the clearly marked and measured dropper. And for children ages 3 to 6 who prefer an easy to swallow or chew mini-size soft gel, we created Children's DHA Extra in pearl-shaped soft gel capsules. The same concentrated oil from sardines and anchovies provides 165 milligrams of EPA and 375 milligrams of DHA per serving. It's a perfect choice for slightly older children needing extra support for brain, eye, and nervous system development. In addition, our original Children's DHA has a new facelift. The liquid has a new label, and the soft gels have a new label and now come in a box. Both products are the same great formula from cod liver oil, with a new look and more information to help parents choose the right product for their child. While prenatal and infancy are crucial periods, cognitive, emotional, and social capacities are woven throughout life. The brain is a highly integrated organ, and its multiple functions operate in coordination with one another. Emotional well-being and social competence provide a strong foundation for emerging cognitive abilities, and together they are the brick and mortar of brain architecture. A few examples of developmental milestones throughout childhood include: by 1 year old, children are using at least 3 words and mastering grasping at objects. By 3 years of age, they are now sorting those objects by size and by color. By 6, they're reading and writing in simple sentences. By 9 years old, they're using abstract thinking. By 12 years of age, they're now expressing themselves through language. And by 15, they're gaining a greater independence, but they're also at risk of depression. It's essential that we support both the structure and the function of all of these developing skills. Nordic Naturals Ultimate Omega Junior and Complete Omega Junior, excellent options to support the needs of later childhood, also have new and improved packaging. Both products now come in a box with clearer features, benefits, and nutritional information. And for your increasingly independent teenager, Nordic Naturals now offers Ultimate Omega 2X Teen fish oil for the next generation. This high-intensity formula delivers over 1,000 milligrams of EPA and DHA per serving in mini-sized, easy-to-swallow or chew soft gels. We know teens don't always make healthy food choices, but we also know they have high cognitive and physical demands. Nordic Naturals is ready to help you support their ongoing brain development and overall health. This is an article published in the Annals of Nutrition and Metabolism just last year. Some of the key subjects are pregnancy, lactation, omega-3s, and the life course into adulthood. The key messages from this article were very clear. Omega-3 fatty acids influence cell membrane, structure, and function, cellular signaling, cellular communication, and even gene expression. DHA is in high concentration in the brain and eyes, where it's linked to better development and better function. Maintenance of DHA concentration is essential during pregnancy and infancy. Maintenance of omega-3 fatty acid concentration is important throughout life. In addition to the effects on development, omega-3 fatty acids support healthy inflammation levels, immune function, and cellular metabolism. Through these effects, omega-3 supports healthy insulin usage, metabolic activity, blood lipids, and cardiovascular function throughout life. The National Institute of Health presents here information regarding omega-3s and their influence on cognitive, emotional, and behavioral development. Some of their findings included dietary deficiencies of omega-3 fatty acids during critical periods of brain development may increase the risk for neurodevelopmental disorders, such as learning and behavioral difficulties, and possibly predispose toward the later appearance of mood disorders and aggressive behaviors. Nutritional insufficiencies of omega-3 may have adverse effects on brain development and neurodevelopmental outcomes. An excessive intake of omega-6 or an inefficient intake of omega-3 can potentially increase the risk of mood disorders. Excessive intake of omega-6 fatty acids may reduce the availability of EPA and DHA in the body. The research is clear. A healthy balance of omega-6 and omega-3 fatty acids supports a child's success in school, family, and social environments. To meet this need, Nordic Naturals introduces Omega Focus Junior for children ages 6 to 18. This product is a unique blend of nutrients that benefit attention and learning by supporting overall brain health. This powerful formula combines concentrated fish oil with a 2-to-1 ratio of DHA to EPA and phosphatidylcholine for brain, nervous system, and gut cell membrane support. Omega Focus Junior also provides magnesium and zinc glycinate, a highly available chelated form of minerals. Low levels of these important minerals have been linked to children struggling with focus and attention skills. The fifth ingredient is L-carnosine, which has been found to support and protect brain cells and nervous tissue, making this formula ideal for children who need a little extra support. Knowing that our gut works closely with both the brain via our complex nervous system and our immune system via specialized immune cells in the gut lining, it's clear that proper support of the digestive system is also important to a developing child. That's why Nordic Naturals has developed some fun with purpose. Introducing Nordic Flora Probiotic Pixie, the newest addition to our quality probiotic family of products. One Pixie supplies 3 billion live cultures from the research-supported strains Lactobacillus rhamnosus GG and Bifidobacterium lactis BL04. These strains are clinically shown to support a healthy immune system, digestion, intestinal health, and absorption of nutrients like omega-3s. These single-serving packets require no refrigeration, so they're perfect for kids on the go. So now that we understand just how important the right fatty acids are to development, let's take a deeper look into balance and how we get there. When we think about our bodies, including our brain, eyes, and nervous system, we have to understand our entire body is made of cells, and all of our cells have a membrane on the outside. That membrane is responsible for letting nutrients into the cell, letting waste out, and communication between cells. This membrane is a phospholipid bilayer, which is really just a fancy way of saying it's made of fat. And the type of fat in the membrane dictates how well the membrane functions. The function of that membrane dictates the health of our cells. And since we're made entirely of cells, their health directly impacts our health as well. If our cells are not healthy, then we can't be healthy either. This is a great representation of what we're talking about here, the way different types of fat influence the functionality of this membrane. On the left is a cell membrane packed with fat that is rigid and structured, creating a membrane that isn't very porous or flexible, and this becomes a problem for the cell. It's harder for the cell to get nutrients in or let waste out. The cell membrane becomes less efficient and eventually less healthy. On the right is a cell membrane with the right kind of fat, creating a fluid and flexible membrane that allows in nutrients and allows out waste. This fluid and flexible nature is part of the benefit omega-3 fatty acids provide. Because balance between omega-6 and omega-3 fatty acids in our cell membranes is so important, we need to understand how we get these fats in our diet. Here, we see sources of omega-6 fatty acids. In the middle, we see highly concentrated vegetable oils like corn, soy, cottonseed, and canola oil. These oils provide very high amounts of omega-6, and reducing our consumption of them can help in creating balance in our bodies. Surrounding those oils are very healthy foods, Things like nuts, grains, beans, and eggs, and even avocado are high in omega-6 fats. Now, we don't suggest anyone stop eating these healthy foods, but it's important for us to understand that even with a healthy diet, it's very likely that we are getting high amounts of omega-6 fatty acids. We also need to understand where we get omega-3s. There are two ways to get omega-3 fatty acids. One are in plant-based sources like flax, chia, and some leafy greens. These foods provide ALA, or alpha-linolenic acid. This is a short-chain omega-3 fatty acid. It's a very healthy and beneficial fat, great to get in our diet. The problem comes in when we try to use ALA to fix the EPA and DHA deficiency that so many of us have. Our bodies are able to convert ALA into EPA and DHA, but most of us convert at a very, very low rate, making it difficult to get sufficient amounts from ALA alone. We can turn then to our marine-based sources of omega-3, like deep cold water fish and certain algae. These provide actual EPA and DHA, not ALA that has to be converted. When you look at the conversion from ALA into EPA and DHA, most people run about a 1 to 5% rate. That means if you're using flax oil soft gels and you're trying to get 1,000 milligrams of EPA and DHA, like you would get in one serving of Ultimate Omega, at this conversion rate, it would take almost an entire 60-count bottle of flax oil soft gels to create 1,000 milligrams of EPA and DHA, making it less efficient and less cost-effective to use ALA instead of using direct sources of EPA and DHA like fish oil. When we consider that most Americans have almost 37% omega-6 and barely over 2% omega-3 in their cell membranes, this is likely what their fatty acid intake would look like. This represents a diet very high in omega-6, even from healthy sources, and too little omega-3. All of these fatty acids compete for space on the cell membrane. So you can see it may be difficult for that little omega-3 fatty acid to make it into the membrane. This is competition. But this also shows us composition as well, because even if all of these fatty acids do make it into the cell membrane, this is what the membrane will look like. Membranes don't have a preference for taking in omega-3s. They take in fatty acids however we take in fatty acids. That's the reason it's so important to get sufficient amounts of omega-3 fatty acids in our diet every single day. So this is really where the rubber meets the road as far as why we need balance between these two fats in the body. Let's talk for a moment about cellular signaling. This type of cellular communication is where a cell sends out signals into its environment. This signal or message can influence the behavior of other cells. Both omega-6 and omega-3 fats are essential, and we must get them in our diet. We can't make enough of them on our own. Both of these fatty acids govern different aspects of this cellular signaling. Omega-6 is loosely considered our stress or emergency response system. You can see things like constricted airways, reduced circulation, or increased blood clotting could be appropriate responses to certain emergency situations. These processes can seem negative, but they are necessary at times to protect and start the healing process in our bodies. Omega-3 fatty acids loosely govern the resolving response. They help to turn off the emergency response and return things to normal once we no longer need the emergency response. So, this is the benefit of healthy balance between these two fatty acids. Our bodies are able to turn on the stress response signals when we need it and then turn it off when we don't. But that's likely not what's happening with 37% omega-6, barely over 2% omega-3. What's more likely to be happening in that scenario is we're regularly turning on the emergency response system. Stress alone can turn that on. But without enough omega-3 in our cellular membranes, we may have difficulty turning it back off. This is where we can begin to get into trouble. So once we know we need it, once we understand how important it is to have this balance of fatty acids, many of us turn to fish oil. But it's important to understand that not all fish oil is created equal. One very important thing to look for is freshness. No one wants to use a low-quality, oxidized, or rancid fish oil. The quickest way to know if that's what you have is checking for a fishy taste or smell. Fresh fish does not smell fishy, and fresh fish oil shouldn't either. You must make sure your fish oil is fresh and clean and pure. Your fish oil should never smell fishy. When you use fish oil, you should never have that fishy repeat that makes some people stop using it. The way Nordic Naturals handles this issue is by processing our fish oil in an oxygen-free environment. This allows us to use a small amount of heat to make sure our oil is clean, safe, and pure, while also routinely being well below the international allowable standards for oxidation in fish oil. Another thing to be considered is the form of your fish oil, because again, not all fish oil is created equal. So when you're looking at form, it's important to understand the word triglyceride. Triglyceride can get a little confusing, but it's really just a molecular term. It refers to 3 fatty acid chains attached to a glycerol backbone, a triglyceride. This is the way nature gives us fat. This is the form of fat in our bodies and the form of fat in our food. It's also the form of fat in the fish and the fish oil we get from them. So when we talk about a non-concentrate like our omega-3 or cod liver oil, these will be in the natural triglyceride form. But if we create a product like Ultimate Omega or individual EPA or DHA products, these are concentrates. In order to create these products, we must put the oil through a gentle concentration process. This cleaves off the glycerol backbone and puts a small alcohol cap on each fatty acid chain to stabilize it for this process. Then, by molecular weight, we remove what's not EPA and DHA, thus concentrating the finished product. At this stage, the oil is in what's called ethyl ester form. This is a typical process used by most manufacturers to concentrate fish oil. But the problem comes in when manufacturers leave it in this ethyl ester form. They do this because it's cheaper and faster to skip the extra step of returning the oil to triglyceride form. Also, you can fit more EPA and DHA into a soft gel when you don't have to make room for the bulky glycerol backbone. This creates a product that looks impressive. If you know what to look for, you're comparing EPA and DHA amounts per serving. You see an ethyl ester oil has a little more per serving, and the price is a little lower. And you believe what you found is the best value. But in truth, what you found is a shortcut. At Nordic Naturals, we take the extra step to turn our fish oil back into triglyceride form. We do this because we recognize that the body wants fat in this form. It's the form of fat in our bodies. It's the way nature gives us fat. Now, the next question is often, how do I know if my fish oil is in triglyceride form? Well, this process is expensive and lengthy. So any company who is going to go through this process is going to list it on the label somewhere. The unfortunate part is that legally, they only have to make 60% of the product into triglyceride form in order to list it on their label. So your next question has to be, how much of the product is in triglyceride form? At Nordic Naturals, we return our oil to a 90+% triglyceride form. We don't do this because we have to. We could do a 60% triglyceride like anyone else. We do it because it's the right thing to do. We do it because we recognize triglyceride form is the natural form of fat that our bodies best recognize and best utilize. Another important feature is that we are family owned. There are a lot of things that go into being family owned. One is a quality standard that is based on integrity, and it's a big part of that is that triglyceride form we just discussed. Instead of a board of directors insisting we do a 60% triglyceride form to make an extra dime, we have an owner with the highest possible standards. This is really important because it allows us to control the process of our fish oil literally from boat to bottle. From all of our fisheries being Friend of the Sea certified, through the oxygen-free processing, and all of the extra steps we take to ensure not only the protection of the ocean floor, and the ecosystem, but also of the oil itself, making it the highest quality, freshest, and best form fish oil available. Most parents understand the crucial role that nutrition plays in the development of children and adolescents. Sometimes it's a losing battle, and sometimes we get small victories. Sometimes a company like Nordic Naturals arms us for those victories with products that are safe and effective while tasting good enough, even kids will use them. This is one of those times. Please don't miss out on the opportunity to give our kids the best possible start. References are provided here for your convenience. Thank you so much for joining me today. Hello, and thank you for joining me. My name is Geraldine. I'm an educator with Nordic Naturals, and today we're going to talk about why every child needs omega-3s. Beginning the moment we know we are expecting a child, we dream about their future. Toward the end of pregnancy, we work to make sure our home is safe for our crawling infant. Once this precious package arrives, we do everything in our power to equip them for safety, health, and success. Helmets, seat belts, vegetables, and the best education possible. We all want to do everything we can to give our children the best possible start and the strongest future. But how many of us are thinking about our child's cellular health, their brain, their eyes, and their nervous system? We may worry about something going wrong, but do we know how to support these delicate yet crucial systems throughout a child's life? That very question is the heart of why we are talking about how every child needs omega-3s. In the first few years of life, more than 1 million new neuronal connections form every second. The early years are the most active period for establishing these connections, but new connections can form throughout life. The connections that form early provide either a strong or a weak foundation for the connections that form later. Undernutrition during pregnancy results in a change in fetal programming that could permanently shape the developing child's structure, function, and metabolism in ways that can lead to imbalances that manifest decades later in adulthood. It's early in the game when we can create a strong and stable foundation. During childhood, there are critical periods of brain development. These critical periods are time frames during development when nutritional deficiencies like omega-3, lack of stimulus, or excessive stress can permanently impact the long-term function of the brain, eyes, and nervous system, impacting social skills and behavior. Without proper support, These critical periods can result in developmental, social, and emotional deficiencies that continue well into adulthood. Most of us don't think of children as having mental health issues, but 80% of chronic mental health disorders start in childhood, and they are the most common health